where I'm helping people to see who they really are and who they want to be, but who they really are. I'm trying to get some integrity into people so that they start behaving in ways that they want. My guru said that the definition of ego is opposing what you want. When people have integrity, they start doing something good with their life. I just want to make siddhas. I want to make people who are like me, who can bend reality, be magical beings, have a good time on earth. Hi, my name is uh, Guru Pashupati, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
This is going to be a fantastic conversation. I saw one of your YouTube videos, and yeah, you were talking about your journey and how you met your guru, and I immediately wanted to have you on the show. Um, but being of Western tradition and Western society, some of the things you guys talk about over there are kind of foreign to us because we've been so indoctrinated by Christianity and some other religions. Some of it can be seem very magical, but a lot of it is so interesting and makes me curious. Like um, from levitation to teleportation to mind reading to different things and ideas and concepts that we just have no capacity to fully understand. But first, before we get into that, I really want to know, how do you experience your everyday reality?
Well, it's not as hard and solid as um, most people experience. It isn't a Western thing or an Eastern thing because everybody is educated in the same kind of paradigm where they think that uh, what they see is not alterable in any way. But in yoga, we have a lot of techniques in which we can play around with our reality. Beginners start by playing with their mind and seeing if they can change their mind. And they find that has a profound effect on matter around them. Things just go more smoothly. And so, whatever bad news you've heard, it's like my wrestling teacher told me, like there's always a way out. And that's really what we believe too. We believe that the world, not believe, it's actually something that we know, that God isn't out to punish us, and God isn't out to sit around and count our sins, but she actually for us, uh, she is uh, she is a playful one, and she wants to test you to see what you're made of. And once you recognize that, then the veil drops, and then you start having a relationship with the being called God instead of just making it into electromagnetic energy or scalar waves or whatever else people call it. There's a personality to these scalar waves and electronic energies and gravitation and whatever that we start to communicate with. And then that allows us to do a lot of transgressions of reality, uh, which is uh, which is the fun part. That's called Siddha Yoga in India.
Oh wow. Um, so yeah, I think it's so fascinating. I want to start with your story though, like how you came to be. Like it's so fascinating to me that you were an entrepreneur and now you're a guru. So can you talk
Yeah,
about that?
yeah. Well, I started off as an entrepreneur when I was 13, and that gave me a lot of freedom. And that itself felt to me like at 13, I've bent reality and I'm making more money than my parents. So I thought, wow, what else can I do? And I met my guru when I was 12, actually, and it's because of the stuff he made me practice. He made me practice martial arts, but because of that, I was able to understand that everything is just like how it works in the martial arts. Um, you really have to look for opportunities. You got to stay alert. Your chances of winning go up when you stay present. So I said, how present can I be? And then I became really present, and that lasted till I was 18. Then he was back, my guru, and then he said, "You've become too arrogant. You think that other people who haven't had your fortune of meeting a guru, You think that they are no good. And so whoever you abhor, you're going to become like them. And I was like, wow, okay. And then that's what happened. I would laugh and sneer at people who got married, but I got married. And I would um, shake my head at people who were drunkards, addicts to alcohol, and I became addicted to alcohol. And there was a big downward spiral. Although one thing lasted, that I was always an entrepreneur, and so I really knew how to do that. But the rest of the stuff, I lost my health. I used to laugh at people who say who've lost their health and say, "How can he get diabetes? Can't he just work out?" And I ended up with type 1.5 diabetes. So I got to see a lot of that. And at the back of my mind, I knew that it was my guru's doing, and that I had to have faith because I had no proof that this is going to end. But it did end when I was 32. He came back after like 14 years of making me suffer. And then he taught me some more, and then he sent me back again. And this time I really lost my health. The time I went to the mountains, I stayed with him for almost a year and a half. And when I came back, uh, I couldn't adjust back to life here because everybody's so sad, and I didn't know what to do. And I wouldn't be sleeping because I was practicing Kundalini yoga, and that energy rises up your spine, and you don't sleep. You hardly eat either, and if you get some sunlight, you don't even have to eat. It was like that. And so I used to spend the nights wondering what to do. And then one day somebody broke into my house, a burglar. And then I said, I have nothing really here. But if you need an assistant, I'm available because I don't sleep. And he said, okay. And then I did that for some time. I accompanied him. Uh, but then I really didn't know what to do. I knew I was supposed to teach yoga, but nobody's ready to learn. Nobody's interested. They think yoga is stretching. So then I said, all right, what am I going to do? I tried doing workshops. I tried doing martial arts. I started teaching people how to save themselves from knife attacks because that's something only I knew. Nobody else knew. And I was just wasting my time. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur again. I thought, oh, that's too much work. I'm just going to make a little money and get by. And then I got addicted to alcohol again. And then I lost my health again. And this time it was really bad. I got like not only me, my girlfriend at the time, she got cancer, and I was trying to cure her. And then whatever little money I had, I lost that also. And then finally, I started a podcast from the mountains. I was then living again in the mountains with no access really to internet. So I would record a podcast, go down to the city and upload it and come back. And I was doing this every day. That podcast went off really well. I made about 55 episodes. And then I used to offer a course through the podcast. So then I started making money again. But then since then, I decided I'm going to stick to yoga and really find out about my audience. I have to care. I realized I have to care. If I don't care, it's not going to become good. So it was a really hard decision, and I started to teach after that. This November, I kind of figured out the pulse of my audience, and I offered a course, and that course has been going very well. We're now in the 12th batch of it, and it's really good. It's called the 64-day challenge, where I'm helping people to see who they really are and what they're doing, who they want to be, but who they really are. I'm trying to get some integrity into people so that they start behaving in ways that they want. My guru said that the definition of ego is opposing what you want. And so I try to teach them how not to oppose what they want, and that's integrity. When people have integrity, they start doing something good with their life. And it's pleasing me now that a lot of people are getting results. Meanwhile, I said I will not take money for alleviating suffering. I don't want to do that. So I put out all the health information of yoga, all the relationship stuff, and all the money stuff, how you make money and all that. I put it out for free. These are the kind of things that coaches are charging people for, but I don't. I just want to make siddhas. I want to make people who are uh, who are like me, who can bend reality, be magical beings, and have a good time on Earth with all the additional powers.
So you see things like that, and naturally, I just want to learn them, right? Like, before we get into that, though, like, who is your guru?
Mahavatar Babaji. He's
So the Babaji that Yogananda
yeah,
speaks
yeah,
about.
yeah. He's pretty famous in the West, more than India actually.
So he came to you when you were a young boy,
Yeah, he came
and
to
then
me when I
taught
was
he
12.
taught you how to fight.
Yeah, because that's really what I wanted. Because I had a chronic stammering problem, which was really bad. I couldn't even say my name, and so the other kids, the older kids, like who were 16 and 18, started to make fun of me, push me around, bully me, and when I fought back, then they beat me up. Even though I knew martial arts, I knew only how to fight one guy. I didn't know how to fight seven guys. So I kept getting beaten up, and in one of those episodes, they took my face and then put it into cow dung, where fresh cow poop. And then I
Mm,
was bleeding all over my face, and I had cow dung. They made me sit down. And they started playing cricket, and you know that hard leather ball. They started
mm,
whacking me with that ball. I also got hit on my elbows with the cricket bat, so I wasn't able to lift my hands, and I got smacked on my head as well. So I was sitting down there, and I was finding it a little comical that this is happening to me. I mean, why is this happening to me? And I spoke to God. I said, Shiva, listen, I didn't ask you to save me, but I said, please send me somebody who can teach me how to fight. I went to all the martial art classes. I won all the state tournaments. They even told me not to come to the state tournament because when I bashed someone in the face, which was really bad, and they said, you can't hit people like that, to stop coming. And I thought I was a good fighter, but it wasn't working. Nobody could teach me how to fight seven people or eight people. And then um, when I was really angry with Shiva, uh, the guru came, and he came with a big shining forehead, and everybody saw him coming. And so they stopped hitting me with the ball. And he just looked at them and then he said, go, go. And they all went. And then he said, you want to learn how to fight? I'm going to teach you how to fight. I said, great. I've been waiting for this. And I said, okay, thanks, Shiva. And I knew that this guy is special because the moment he touched my shoulder, all the pain went away. Like all of my, I was in severe pain, emotional pain, physical pain, everything went away. And then I said, okay, I'll come and meet you at your place tomorrow. So I went there the next day and he was sleeping. And then I kind of realized that he's the watchman in that house. So I started calling his name. And then the owner of the house comes out and says, go away and come back later. My watchman is sleeping. I'm like, what kind of watchman is this? Why does the owner have to come out and say my watchman is sleeping? So I thought that's really strange. But I went back again later, and then I took a dog's leash with me. I said, if he can put his foot in that leash and then go to sleep after he drinks so much, then I'll go and yank that foot, and then he'll wake up tomorrow. He liked the idea. He said, yeah, yeah. Before I go to sleep, I'll remember to put my foot in this. So he put his foot into the dog's leash. I came out, I found the end of the rope, and I yanked it, and then began my first lessons. That's when he started teaching me how to fight with more than one person. He explained a concept called vyuha to me. And vyuha is how you arrange your body in battle formations, even if it's one person, two-person, three-person, as many number of people can arrange themselves into vyuha. So I learned a particular vyuha called the tortoise, which allowed me not to get bashed by these people. And then in a month or two, I was able to really give back these kids what they deserved. But the way that he taught me was very unique. He took me to the station, the railway station, and then he pointed out to four people there. He said, go and spit on them. I said, why should I spit on them? And he said, that's because you can't abuse them. You stammer so much. You can't write an abuse and say fuck you to them. So you go and spit on them. Show them they that that you really don't like them, and then they'll fight you. And if they don't, then spit on them again. I said, then what if four of them gang up against me and beat me up? I said, I'm here, don't worry. And so I went there and I spat on the guy. And then I turned around to look. My teacher's vanished. He's not there anymore. And before that, he was making me pluck out weeds. So I was plucking out weeds, and the neighbors were very happy that I'm cleaning up all the weeds. But that was uprooting practice, he said. So I did that. I bent down, I caught hold of both the guy's legs and I uprooted him. So he fell on his head and he probably passed out. But the other guy took a knife out and started chasing me. I got so scared, I jumped across the railway tracks and I was trying to run. I tripped and fell, and he caught up with me, and then he slashed my calf. And then I went running back somehow. I did, I don't know, fear lends you wings. So I became really fast and I jumped a wall. I did all sorts of things. And I finally got back furious back to this guy's place. And I said, "You abandoned me there." And he said, "Oh, you got cut by a knife. How did that go?" I said, "How do you know I got cut by a knife?" He said, "You're bleeding all over." So then he fixed it. And the wound healed in 2 days. And I was like, there's no scar even. I mean, there is a scar, but it's not as deep as it was. So I said, okay, let's continue the training. And then he made me do this 300 times in worse and worse situations. And in the last situation for some bar, I was just 13, man. And he got really drunk and he picked a fight with someone. And that guy cut him across the stomach, and then I could see his intestines inside. So I didn't know what to do. He said, "Take me to the hospital, they'll stitch me up." I said, "Please do your Jesus thing and heal yourself." And he said, "No, no, I need to go to the hospital." So I had to take him to the hospital. My hands, my face, my shirt was full of his blood. I had to hold it together. And he's smiling at me. He said, "Yeah, pains a little, but I'll be okay." And then I took him to the hospital, and then they stitched him up. And I don't know what they did, but he got better and he got okay. And then finally he left. He borrowed money from a lot of people around me and said, "This guy's here. He's going to pay you back. Don't worry. You can lend me money." And they looked at me and they said, "Oh, yeah, your father's a scientist, isn't he?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." And then they lent him money. So he took that money, got into a train, and that's the last I saw of him in that form. He was just gone. And these guys were after me for the money, and then I had to settle all that. But I could actually. He trained me enough. So I became street smart and I became dangerous. And then guess what? I got involved with the mafia. Um, that went south really bad. Uh, everybody was killed, and then I had to run for my life. I confided in my father, and he agreed to shift our house, and then we went somewhere else. Moved to another neighborhood. Then I thought I'll have a normal life, but I didn't. Just continued.
Well, it's interesting to me because everyone thinks or assumes that a guru or a spiritual teacher is like a benevolent being who
I
speaks about
am.
love and speaks about like, compassion. And I don't, I don't know if this is the first time I've ever heard of a guru teaching someone how to fight and then putting them in situations of like getting stabbed and like actually going out and getting drunk and like getting slashed and having to go to the hospital. So, like,
That was one of the forms in which he came. Then he came back when I was 18, and that's when he said, "No, you've become too arrogant. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna let you experience everything you abhor." And I was like, "Oh, what now?" And I had to do that. I ended up being married until the age of 32. So 14 years suffered. And then he came back again at 32. And then he took me to the mountain again. And then I was there for 1.5 years living at his place. I thought, yeah, this is it. I've attained my nirvana. I'm feeling great. And he said, "Okay, now you got to go back and teach people." I'm like, "What? I can't stay here?" He said, "No." And then he gave me a bag and then he sent me back here. And then I'm back here now. It's been years since
sure.
I'm back. I did meet him in the middle in a few times. The last I met him was a month ago when I went again to the mountains. He was there. Yeah,
Hmm.
lots of stuff
So, what
happened
is
there.
he when he presents himself to you? How does he, I guess,
Well,
appear? You know what I mean? Does he look like the picture in the Yogananda book, or does he?
not really. In the picture, it looks like Jesus, but actually, his skin is like mine, maybe even darker. And he's really big. He's about 8 feet tall. So you can't even imagine what he, how big that is. Because I look like I'm about 5.5 feet tall. So I don't even reach his chest. So that's how I look with him. So he's very powerful. He's not sitting like this all the time. Like how they show him in the pictures. He's a very lively person.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
when he took you to the mountains, the Himalayas, right? Um, what was that environment like? Were there other beings of his, I guess, mastery?
Yeah, yeah, there were a lot of immortals, and there were also alien beings. There were all sorts of beings out there. It's impossible for any human to live there, and I was there only by His grace. Otherwise, I would be dead because the temperatures there are like minus 25 degrees centigrade. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's pretty cold,
Yeah.
and it's like Russia, or maybe worse than Russia. And then there are these mountains, and just there's snow everywhere except near his cave, where because of his heat, there's no snow, and
Hmm.
that's the place where I used to live. And there was a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's hard to explain because reality turns into liquid over there. Everything's like liquid. Nothing's real.
Well, who is
So
Babaji? Like, really, right? Like, is he some
he's an
type of
avatar
eight?
of a god called Murugan. I don't know if you know about it, but he's Shiva's son, reincarnated as a human to teach people integrity, courage, and warriorhood.
Hmm.
That's really what it is. He's been trying to, he's failed so much to teach people. He's been trying to, and I hope that I'm one of his successes.
Sure. Well, he bring to the planet Earth like Kriya Yoga?
No, that's like saying yoga is divided into three: Icha, Jnana, and Kriya. So Icha is purpose, Jnana is knowledge, and Kriya is power, or how would you put it? Energy to do things. So Kriya yogis are building the energy to do things, but they don't know what they're going to do with it. They have no idea what they're doing. Why are you building all this energy? So they're building all this energy just to feel better and to feel superior or to feel um, fulfilled in some way, or I don't know why. Because without Icha Yoga, you don't have a step by step way as to know your purpose. And I think it's very important to know your purpose and then develop power. Because if you develop power without your purpose, then you just waste the power. So there's only one part of what he taught that became famous, which is Kriya Yoga. But he said, who's going to teach the Icha Yoga and the Jnana Yoga? You go teach it. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to get people sober and tell them that, Kundalini awakening isn't just for your entertainment. You got to have a purpose for it. Kriya Yoga is just Kundalini Yoga. So it's awakening a dormant energy in your spine, and that makes you like beyond manic. Okay, it makes you out of control. You see no wrong. You think everything is great, and you can become you can objectify people like how I used to do. I used to think, look at these whiners, and you know they're undergoing something really difficult for them. It's difficult for them. It's not difficult for me. But you lose all sense of compassion if you only develop power. So you really got to develop purpose. You really got to develop symbiosis, which is what yoga means. And yeah, that's the right translation of yoga. People are translating it as union and stuff like that, but it's actually symbiosis.
Sure.
So
So what else did he teach you on the mountaintop, right? Did he teach you about our origin story as humanity and like, who we truly are and
yeah,
how we
yeah,
came to be?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He made me read the Purans. There are 108 Purans, and there are like 18 Mahapurans, I think. And these are like really long, and um, each of them, some of them are like 80,000 verses, and some of them are like 100,000 verses. So they're like really long stories, and these stories try to tell you what your divine origins are. So how we came from the one God who is formless, how that gave rise to the three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, and how Brahma gave rise to a lineage of humanity, how Vishnu gave rise to a lineage of humanity. Shiva didn't give rise to any lineage, but he was the teacher. So he taught humanity. And all of these stories are something that I read about and also experienced when I met my guru's guru, Agastya. And that's when I saw that how can one human being pack the power of a god? I mean, more than my teacher. And that's like the power of nature, like every breath of his would move the wind, that kind of a being. And so there are a lot of powerful beings, and when you see them, then you start getting convinced that, yeah, wow, even I can do that, because they're human, but they're not anymore. They become superhuman.
Hmm. What? So was he teaching you what you could possibly do as a human being, like here in this reality? Did he teach you, like, I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
great to be able to teleport and do all these different things and materialize different ideas or concepts, or mess with reality or bend time. Did he teach you any of that type
No,
of
he did,
city?
because I was living there in the mountain just like I am now, without any clothes. Like, I mean, just one dhoti and that's it. And I was sustaining without food or water, just sunlight. And so he did teach me all of that stuff. Um, but really, I didn't know where to apply it. I had no idea what to do with this. Yeah, I don't have to eat, I don't have to sleep. What do I do next? So he let me experience that too, that how it feels to have power but no purpose. So he allowed me to sit down and figure out my purpose. What do I want to do with my life? And then it came to him having uh, given me the powers to do whatever I want, and now I have to choose what I want to do. That was
Hmm.
the hardest part, more hard than getting the powers. 'Cause the powers were grace, he would just tap me on my head and I'd have powers. That was easy, I thought. At least easy for him, not for me. But yeah,
So, and but you're is it through meditation? Did he teach you through meditation and different types of
some
yoga?
meditation, and if he was very pleased with my efforts, then there would always be this place where he'd come and tap me on my head, and then I'd have the ability. But I didn't get my abilities through meditation alone. A lot of it is grace.
Mhm.
I guess that's good because it keeps you humble.
Sure, but did you ever experience, like, the union with the true God? You know what I mean? Like, when you're in meditation, or I guess it's samadhi that you would call it, or something like that, like, a unification with the source of the universe?
Samadhi is just having a stable mind. But yeah, this is called Shiva Aikya, and I don't know. I never got attracted to that idea, so I never really pursued it. I'm going to unify with the one God, true God, and then what? Then back to the illusion, right? What else?
So
So I'm already in the illusion.
how much is this reality is an illusion?
All of what we see is an illusion. Nothing's real,
Hmm. Did
and
he
there's
teach
nothing
you
wrong
that,
with
or
that.
have you seen it for yourself? Like, have you been
I've
able
seen it
to?
for myself. I've seen it for
Yeah.
myself. Even the last time I went to Pondicherry, which is about 8.5 hours away from my place, I reached there in 4.5 hours, and I don't know how. So a lot of reality bending happens depending on how much of my Kundalini is awake or sleeping or what she's doing. It's this feminine serpent power in your spine. So when she starts awakening, all sorts of things happen. Reality starts bending, and you get like superhuman strength. All sorts of things happen. They come and go like waves. The powers are not stable, because it depends on the Kundalini on that day. If she's really awake and booming, and she's got cycles too, just like a woman, right? So there's a time of the month where she's really powerful, and that's around the full moon. And there's the time in the new moon where she's just taking rest, and she expects you to chill too. So this is the time around the full moon. So the power's booming now. It's like, right, I feel like my spine's a didgeridoo, vibrating all the time.
Hmm.
So that's how I feel. And people are asking
Well,
me, why can't you sit still in podcasts? I'm like, I can't.
well, usually you have a stick or something, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need
do you
that
have it
thing to
now?
keep waving it around, because otherwise it's too much energy to sit in one place.
Sure, sure. Um, I think it's just so fascinating. I feel like when you were an entrepreneur, you were kind of disrupting industries, right? Like,
I was.
you were a disruptor. I feel like now, as a guru, even now you're disrupting spirituality, just because I feel like you have a
Yeah,
different
thanks for
message.
noticing. Yeah.
You 100% do. Like, when I was watching a lot of your content, like, you are not a traditional guru. Like, I feel like you are you're speaking your truth, and people are like, well, that's a little bit too aggressive. But then again, it's like we create a duality when we do that, right?
Yeah, I think it's good to have integrity, and you have to always speak your truth. I can't care about whether others accept it or not. It's my truth. If I accept it, it's more than enough. But if others can't accept it, they can watch another channel. So it's really simple.
Oh, 100%. Um, I want to know more about like Babaji. I'm just so fascinated with this with him as an entity. So like when they created, like did he ever tell you like why they created mankind? Was it for them to come down and experience this experience? Because a lot of spiritual
I
teachers
think
say,
I think God wanted an intelligent pair of eyes to observe her. Being a woman, that's what she wants, and so that's what we do now. We have to observe her, and when we appreciate her, she blushes and then she smiles, and when she looks at you, good things happen. But if you don't appreciate her, she takes this really aggressive form and says like, "You ungrateful fellow, yeah, I'm gonna teach you how to appreciate me." And that's happened with me a lot. So now I'm truly in awe and appreciation of her. She keeps showing up in various forms in my life. Yesterday, 2 days ago, she took down one of my channels, just boom, for no reason. The channel in which I'm talking about her, the Womb Spirituality channel, is gone.
hmm,
And so another colleague of mine said, "Yeah, Devi's at play again." And we said, "Yeah, Devi's at play." And then we sat and then we used a method which is called Ekatattva to see what's going on here. And then we saw Devi everywhere. And we said, it's just you playing. Okay, return our channel. We want to post another video. And then we went to sleep and it was back the next day. We wrote a letter to Google and they reinstated the channel and apologizing that it's a mistake. They thought
wow,
they flagged us for something and it was just gone. So these kind of things happen, and we go outdoors for shoots and all sorts of stuff happen. We run into problems with the forest department. We run into problems with the villagers. All sorts of things happen when we go outside for shoots. But it's fun
sure.
because we know
So
that we're protected. We can throw ourselves to the winds and then we'll be still all right. We know even the wind is hurt.
so the one source, the one universal like consciousness is feminine, is what you're saying.
Mhm.
And
No,
now is
not the
that
consciousness. Not the consciousness. The energy is feminine. The consciousness is Shiva. That's male.
so it's a blend of male and so the blending of male and female or male
Yeah.
consciousness, female energy is the universal one.
Have you seen the image called Ardhanari?
No.
But there's the left side is female and the right side is male. So the left side is Shakti and the right side is Shiva.
Hmm.
That's the representation of God that we have. That God is both male and female. It's the only transgender God in the world.
Wow.
I don't know. I may not be, but I've not seen many.
Sure. Well, so who have you seen on the mountain? Like when you were with Babaji, like what other entities or gods did you meet?
There were a lot of aliens there. And I was kind of fascinated by how similar they are to us, also how different. There'd be some small differences from the way we are, but they pretty much had an upright spine. And he said the beings with an upright spine are the ones who can raise Kundalini. The beings with a horizontal spine can't raise Kundalini. So that's why humans are able to do it. And they have to have two nostrils. So those were the aliens. There are 9 openings for the body. So the left nostril, the left eye, and the left ear are called Ida Nadi. They open into a river inside our body, a river of energy called Ida. And the right nostril, the right eye, and the right ear open into a nadi or a river called Pingala. And then the mouth, the anus, and the genitals open into a nadi called Sushumna. So these 3 rivers, they play with each other and they create all sorts of effects inside our body. One is Rajasic, one is Tamasic, and one is Sattvic. These are the 3 gunas or the 3 attributes of nature itself. And when we use the Ida and Pingala streams to churn up the bottom, which is called the Kunda, which is the tailbone, when we churn up the kunda, then this central nadi gets aroused, and she becomes the central nadi, which is called Saraswati on the outside and Arundhati on the inside, Sushumna and whole. That thing becomes about 4 fingers wide, so this wide, and that's when energy starts pumping in your spine. And when that happens, you start experiencing a different reality. You can also talk to other beings. There's a place in your head called the talu, by which you can enter into the talu and you can speak to any beings, and you would have no consciousness of your body. You would be right there. So in that way, I've spoken to a lot of beings, but I also met a lot of beings in person. I can't speak about all of them, but I did meet quite a few of our gods uh, in their human form, not in the god form, like in the human form, which is about, I don't know, maybe 10 feet tall with 4 hands, kind of thing. I even met Hanuman once. So
Really? What was that
yeah,
like?
that was crazy. So I went up a trek from Dharamkot, and I reached a point where I could view this mountain called Hanuman Tibba, and I saw him there. And I was like, "Is that Hanuman?" So I just lay down on the floor and I said, "If that's Hanuman, please bless me. You know, give me something that you would be proud to have." And so I don't know what he gave me, but he gave me a lot of things that he would be proud to have.
Really?
And yeah, since then my life's been good.
Wow. What? So, do you think they come to the to Western society? Do you think they come to the United States, or do you think they just stay in India and in the mountains, like doing their work there? Because I feel like there's a lot of suffering in the West, and there's a lot of different interpretations of spirituality. We are a big fan of Jesus over here, and so you speak about these different gods or entities,
Mm.
Babaji, um, and we don't really understand exactly. Some of us do, but not a lot of us. But through Yogananda's works, or like Shri M, like his
Yeah.
autobiography, we kind of have like a little bit of an idea of these entities and beings. But do you think they ever visit like the United States or the Western society to
For
like
sure
help
they do. For
progress
sure they
us?
do. Yeah, North America and South America traditionally has been welcoming all these gods. I mean, the native Indians. They had different names for them, of course, but I think that they were the same beings. There's a lot of correlation.
Mm,
So I think long ago the world had just one religion, and then it got split into many. So it's
sure.
really old.
What about I guess. Well, what are your thoughts on like the UFO, UAP phenomena that we experience here in the United States? Like, it's a big thing now. Like,
Yeah,
people are really
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Do you think it's them, like the gods, or do you think it is actual aliens coming and like messing with
Well,
us?
I've never seen the gods needing a UFO, but if they need a UFO, it's probably aliens.
Well, there's a part in Shri M's story about, I don't know, I think it's chapter 29, Fireball from the Sky or something like that, where he's in the cave with his guru, which is Babaji, but I don't think it's the same Babaji as yours.
No, that's
And
Babaji's student, Maheshwarnath.
and this like orb comes in, and then this snake figure gets out of the orb.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you read that at all? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't read it, but I've seen snake-headed, lizard-headed people as well. Yeah.
And so he was saying that he was like the chief of some type of, I guess, planet in our Milky Way that used to come here. I guess it's the Nagas or something like that.
Yeah, the
And
Nagas. Yeah.
they gave us information. They gave us these spiritual tools and techniques, and then we rose in power, and then we turned against them.
My
Is there
guru
any?
is a kind of Naga too. His name is Nagraj. His actual name is Nagraj,
And
king
that's
of the
Babaji.
snakes. Yeah, yeah.
Babaji is
Babaji's
king of
actual
the
name is
snakes.
Nagraj. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So,
They can
why?
transform. The Nagas can transform into human form, back into snakes, whatever.
What was the technology that they were teaching us back then? Is it the same? Is still the Yoga Sutras?
Yoga Sutras was written by a Naga, Patanjali.
Hmm.
Patanjali was a Naga too.
So are they trying to teach us like who we truly are? Like, are they trying to awaken us from this drama,
No,
this
they're trying to teach us about Kundalini, which is also a Naga. So there's a Naga within us,
but what's the purpose
Kundalini.
of it though, right? Like, we live in this drama. You were an entrepreneur, you know what it's like to be in this dream of like this of trying to obtain things outside of ourselves, right? But like, is it coming within and like really harnessing that power and like getting to know who your actual self is, like the higher self, not like the small self?
Well, we have three sets of senses. The first set of senses sense everything outside, and they're called external senses. Karmendriya, they call it. But they call like the gross senses. They just gather information from outside your body. There's another set of senses that gather information from inside your body, which is all the sensations that you would feel inside, like your heartbeat. And then there's a third set of senses, which is called the tanmatra, which gather information about divine beings, presences, spirits, all those kind of subtle phenomena that our gross senses and subtle senses can't sense. So these are even more refined. So we have three sets of senses, so a total of 15 senses, and we need to get some integrity between all of these. And that's when other worlds open out to us, and we realize we're not alone. It's not the whole picture. Everything they taught you in school and college is wrong. That's what happens.
So how do you live your life now, right? Like knowing all the information that you have, all your experiences, all the spiritual knowledge, like how do you live your life now?
Moment to moment, like anybody else, because I don't know what's going to happen in the next moment. So you know what? Sometimes I live day to day because I say, if I can repair everything that got damaged today, then I'm practically immortal, which is the truth. So I just want to know what were the damages today, and then I do a little bit of practice before I go to sleep, and I repair everything. I go to sleep, and I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and I start my practice again. And that's fun because now I don't know what's going to happen today. I really don't know where my day is going to take me, and I don't want to know. I'm not finding my security in the future. I'm finding my security in my presence, in my alertness, in my being present. That's my sense of security. I don't want to have it from a secure future. There's no such thing. Anything can happen. That's the game. Would you play a game if it was easy, like Angry Birds? If the second level was easier than the first and the third level was easier than the second, who'd play the game? You want it to get progressively difficult, and that's when you want to play. So when you understand that this is just a game, then you want it to be difficult. You don't want easy. Right? So everything is about making things easy. Everybody is about making things easy, and you make things so easy, and then everybody gets dumb.
I love that. Now, did you have a past life with Babaji? Is that why you became like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was?
yeah,
That's why he came to you in this life.
yeah. I later realized that when I was 32, why he recruited me, but I'd rather not talk about it because it make a lot of people uncomfortable. So
Really?
yeah,
Um, so I feel like a lot of people now are aware of him, and I'm sure there's a lot of other entities out there that we're not aware of. But Babaji is infamous now because of Yogananda, and so people call on him. A lot of people call on him, like a lot of Westerners call on Jesus, right? So what does it take to get his attention? You know what I mean? Like, what does it take to get his blessing?
well, he does give you attention. All you have to do is call on him, and he says what, and then you keep calling on him. Say, Babaji, and he's like what? And you don't have any tanmatras activated to see him, and so you're like Babaji, and he's like, yeah, I'm right here, Babaji. You know, you gotta tell him what you want. What do you want?
I heard you say one time that you have to be like really unique to for him to come to you or something. Like he's the warrior of like worlds, right? Like he's the protector, and so
Yeah,
like you have to be a hero to be one of his students, right? Like what
I
does
think
that
so.
mean?
Yeah, I think so. I think you need to have integrity and you need to have clarity about what you want to do. And uh, victimhood is not something that you should go to him with because he can give you a lot more than just relief from your victimhood. Um, but then, to overcome the victimhood, what you're going to do, so you can still call on Babaji. He'll give you situations where you can prove yourself as a hero. That's what he does. People call on him and they get situations to prove themselves as a hero, and then they call on him again when they're supposed to be a hero. So that's what happens. He put me through a lot of shit, man. I don't think you want to call on Babaji because when he does come, he gives you a lot of stuff to grow. It's a good thing if you can endure it. If you can endure it, then please call Babaji. Don't call
Sure.
Babaji just for relief, call him for growth.
I love that. Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced Jesus or Yeshua?
Oh, I've never really met Jesus, but I met someone who met Jesus. So
Really? What
one,
was
we
that
are
like?
one of the immortals I met there. His name was Ibrahim, and he told me that Babaji is the one who trained Jesus. And then he told me that he knew him and he was very good friends with him, and that Jesus is immortal and he's still alive. Yeah, but he didn't say where. I asked him where. He said, I don't know, man. He travels a lot. I'm not sure where he is. So Jesus is still around.
Yeah.
He never died.
Well, I think there is a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of philosophy about like def- whether he resurrected or like he survived, and then I mean, there's so many different Jesus stories out there, but there's also like the Mandela effect, where there's different dimensions of like timelines happening at once. So like people
Yeah.
will experience Mandela dying in jail, and then some people experience, we experience Mandela living and becoming president. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different possibilities that could have happened. I mean, there are examples of my childhood where I thought that I experienced something in a particular way, but come to find out it's totally different now. So have
Mm.
things happened like that for you where your reality is constantly like
Yeah.
changing and it's reflecting and being, because reality is a mirror, like it's reflecting to you something totally different than what you thought you experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the timeline is not as straight as we think it is, and we can shift energy. And when we shift energy, we are in a new reality, and it's very sudden. You don't you don't realize you don't realize in the beginning that it's a new reality, but everybody's behaving differently. It's like they were different people, and that
Sure.
happens to me a lot. Happens to me on a regular basis. Because I mean, that's probably how I help my students. I just kind of, I don't know what's the word that they were using on Mind Valley, quantum jumping
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, that happens to me a lot. I keep quantum jumping
Do you still have
because there's
goals?
as many versions of you as the number of people who know you, right, Trey? There's now a version of you in my reality, and I have a certain opinion about Trey, and then somebody else has another opinion, someone else has another opinion. So these are all realities, and we could jump into any one of them.
I love that. Do you still have goals that you want to obtain?
Yeah, 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 of course. Every day,
Yeah.
I have a goal of what I want to do. And that's why I'm here on time for the podcast, and we're doing it in full energy. This is my third. This is my third podcast today.
I love it. This is my first.
Okay.
Very early for me, but I think that yeah, I think you're totally right about the quantum jumping thing. There's many different timelines and opportunities for us to change, but we get bogged down with like our mirror neurons. We get bogged down with our neural pathways, and we live the same old story every day, right?
We have a word for it. It's called virya. So virya is the power that you have, and if you have a lot of virya, you can quantum jump a lot. And if you have
Mm,
less virya, you don't have currency to quantum jump. You'll have to wake up
sure.
to the same old reality. It's a continuation of the same bad dream.
Mm, I love that. Do you still have a connection with Babaji? Like, can you feel him around you?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's here all the time.
So, what did he say to you last month when he visited you?
Didn't see anything. I went there with a student of mine, and then I went to a temple called Trilokinath, high in the mountains, and it was pretty cold. And then I was walking around the temple, and when I turned a corner, I was suddenly in an altered reality. Quantum jump happened, right? And then was being hit by these liquid ruby bullets, and I didn't know what's going on. Meanwhile, my student's out there. She's looking for me. She can't find me. She goes outside the temple. She sees that my slippers are still there. She goes around the temple. She can't find me. I don't know where I am. And then I see Babaji standing there. I'm like, Babaji, are you shooting these bullets at me? Why? And then he smiles. And then he just walked off. And uh, after some time, I was released from it and I stumbled into the real world. So called real world. Nothing's real. So I stumbled back in. I found my bearings. There was buzzing going on in my ears. And none of that stuff was there on me anymore. I was covered in red splotches. And after 4 or 5 days, I realized that was I got showered by Devi's periods. That's what happened, and that left me with a lot more different powers. And then when I started practicing my Kundalini stuff, it was like really next level after that. So he kind of gave me an upgrade. I got upgraded with Devi's period blood.
Really? So what kind of
Yeah,
powers do you have now?
I don't know yet. I've been trying to figure it out.
Really? So, well, that's new powers. Like, what were
Yeah,
what were your existing powers before that?
existing powers is to get anybody into a frame where if somebody is okay. So here's one thing that you guys don't know in the West, that the mind is made up of frames and prana. Just these two things. What's a frame? It's who you are and who the other person is and what are you doing together, that kind of stuff. Where are we really? So, an idea about where you really are, what you're really doing, and with whom and who you really are. That's the frame. So, when you have that frame, we call this vasana, right? Memories. It's all based on memories. Who you are is based on memories of what you've done in the past. But then we realize there's no difference between a past memory and a future memory. So when you replace the frame and you start improving the frame, then even your prana increases, and your mind gets stronger, your consciousness gets stronger. So its effect on reality is a lot more. So a lot of things happen. Every day we are putting the five elements into our body, and they respond to us. So when the wind responds to us, the water responds to us, fire responds to us, the sky responds to us, the earth responds to us. And that's some of the powers that Siddhas have. There's another bunch of Siddhis called the Ashtamaha Siddhis, and they stay inside the heart of a Siddha. And they include things like um, being aware of atomic phenomena or being aware of planetary phenomena, making yourself so heavy that nobody can lift you, and making yourself so light that you can walk on water and things like this. I've done a lot of those things. I've been playing around with them, but mostly by myself in nature.
Sure.
And
Well,
I also have the skill to communicate with animals, even wild animals.
really, is that like telepathic?
Yeah, yeah, it's feelings. You get feelings, they get feelings, and then you know their feelings, and you can
Sure.
communicate stuff.
So how do you walk through this life now? Do you still eat? Do you still drink water? Like, are you able to
Yeah,
rely
I
on the
do. I
sun's
do.
energy?
I eat once a day, and I drink a lot of water. But
Hmm.
mostly it's the sun's energy.
Mostly the sun's energy.
Yeah,
What
I'm always outside.
how do we strengthen that spiritual connection with the mother, right? Like, how do we, is it through meditation? Is it like just opening ourselves up to more opportunities? Is it walking through nature? Like, how would you advise someone to strengthen that connection?
Yeah, we practice something called Devi Maryada, which is showing respect to Devi. Maryada means respect. And the first thing you got to do is catch the sunrise always. Look at it. Look at the sunrise with your eyes. And we also stare at the sun all day, like that, straight at the sun. With a little practice, you can, You just watch the sun as it moves across the sky. So I spent some days just watching the sun. We also watch the moon in a similar way because the moon and sun are the eyes of Devi. And then we drink water, which we charge with mantras, which creates water can hold structure, as you know, and it creates the structure of Devi when you drink it. And also our food, we bless our food with mantras of Devi, and then that takes a particular structure.
Hmm.
And there's only particular kind of foods that we eat. So all of these contribute to Devi Maryada. I don't eat after sunset at all.
Hmm.
Yeah, I usually eat once in a day, and maybe if I'm hungry, if I've really worked out a lot, then I might eat another meal. And if there's no sun,
How
but
do
if
you
there's sun, I don't eat another meal.
how do you get her attention
Uh,
in a good way, right? Like, you don't want to.
you
I don't.
start relaxing your soles and the top of your head, the scalp. Relax your soles and your scalp. Make it softer and softer and softer. Your subtle senses will awaken, and then your tanmatras or your spiritual senses will awaken. And when your spiritual senses awaken, you can pretty much see her. You see, oh, there's some tree there, and then you see her. Suddenly, you see her face, or you see an eye of hers, or maybe a hand, or maybe You'll hear the sound of her anklets, or you get some fantastic smell, and then you know that Devi's here. Where
And
Devi is, there's cheerfulness and joy, and when she leaves, people only want to kill themselves. So she's around.
wow. So you've seen her in your physical reality?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She took human form, and then she taught me some martial arts,
Really?
the martial arts of Kali.
So who is Kali in relationship to her?
Kali is her, and that's one of her forms, one of her mad forms. That's
Hmm.
that's her. That's her being the wild, independent woman who doesn't need a man. And there's also the beauty who needs. ಹೋಗ್ರು ನಾನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ವಾ ಸಾರಿ about that.
It's good.
Okay, so she has another form which is the full moon form. It's called Lalita, and that one is like she's like a sex goddess. She's sitting on top of Shiva, mating with him, drinking wine, and you know she's all about yeah. I really need that. I need that man. But Kali's the one standing with her leg on Shiva's chest. So that's really who she is. But then she regrets it. She puts her tongue out. Oh, then step on him. I hope his chest survives. So there's these two flavors, you know. And I think all women go through these crazy personality shifts during their period. So I think it has a lot to do with that.
Well, I've been very interested in like healing the wounded masculine energy. Um,
Yeah.
because I feel like our idea of what a man is false. How do you mentor men and being in touch with their spirituality, but also not being afraid of being a sensitive man?
Well, what's to be afraid of being a sensitive man? You know, the more power you have and the more strength you have, the more sensitive you can be and the more vulnerable you can be. It takes strength to be vulnerable and to speak your truth and then not bother about whether people accept you or not. So I think being a man is a very important thing. Men are the pillars upon which the feminine energy is built, you know, because we are the protectors and we are the physically strong ones. And really, with, in the ancient days, with all the wild animals around, it's because of men that society survived. So we've got to take pride in our heritage as being a power, but being a benevolent power. That's who we are when we train. We become magnificent. And I think men should all see themselves as magnificent. I've got a podcast on this. It's called Remembering Masculinity. I'm doing this with my colleague Shashank, and it's we released 2 episodes. People are loving it. They're going crazy about it.
Sure. I think in the West, we have this idea and concept of what being a man is. And
Mhm.
we've learned a lot through movies and just
Yeah,
unconscious
movies.
programming. And I think it's false. I feel like, to your point, speaking your truth, but not being afraid of that and really stepping into that sensitivity as a
No,
male.
there's a magic fluid in men, and that's the prostrate fluid, the semen. And people are busy ejaculating it out like a river, and then they become weak. And you really got to orgasm, but not ejaculate. And that's the teaching of yoga. If you're able to capture that energy back in, that's the energy you take to your head and you store it in your internal organs. And then you'll
Mhm.
be really like bursting with testosterone after that.
Well, I've done this breathing technique where you use these different methods to raise that energy up the spine,
Mhm.
focusing on this top of the skull. And there is definitely like a sensation you feel like after 15 minutes of it. Like, is that trying to awaken in that pineal gland, like trying to use that fluid up the spine to activate that? And then once you activate that, like what are you
It's
able
not
to see?
really a fluid, it's a lot of energy because this is an electrically charged liquid. And you want to harvest all of the charge from it back into your other internal organs and your brain. And then when you ejaculate, you're just shooting blanks. So you have to ejaculate. Once in 7 to 10 days, you have to ejaculate. Otherwise, your prostate get full and you got wet dreams after that. So to avoid nightfall, then you do this. You have to ejaculate. But when you ejaculate, you've taken all the electricity back, so you don't lose any energy. But most men, masturbate twice a day and then they lose all their energy and then they don't feel motivated to do anything. So they've lost their manliness doing this.
Hmm. Well, but I've listened to Joe Dispenza speak, and I feel like he's trying to activate the pineal with his technique, right? Like, so if we activate the pineal gland in our brain, is that when we can see different dimensions and experience different entities?
It's not exactly the pineal gland. We call it the Agya Chakra, which is located here, and it's easy to mistake that for a gland. It's not a gland. It's a s it's an energetic structure. It's electromagnetic in nature. When you bring your hand here, you can feel it. You just rub your palm across because the palm is also electromagnetically charged. When you rub it across your forehead, you can kind of feel some stuff there. That's the exact place where the third eye is, and that eye shows you the perspective of God. You can look from the eyes of God if you use that. If you activate that eye.
Hmm. Last question. Um, Is Babaji and all the entities in the universe like protecting us, watching over us? Like I feel like they're intervening a little bit more so now than they have been in the past. Maybe they've been doing it the entire time. I don't know, but I feel like they are definitely involved more heavily now than in years past. But are they protecting us from ourselves?
So, according to Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, uh, this is the age of Kali, and in Kali's age, it's been 5,000 years since the Kali age started. And this is a time when people have really lost faith in God. They really don't believe in a higher power. They think they know everything. And atheism is really high. So people are losing their peace, they're losing their meaning because it was all about collaboration with the divine. And when we invite that kind of collaboration again, then we see the beauty and the joy of having God back in your life. It doesn't matter what God, whether it's the Christian God or the Muslim God or the Hindu God, but if you got God back in your life, then you'll experience miracles. And that's really why these beings are now uh, trying to get the truth of yoga out and the truth of all these things. It's not just yoga. There are a lot of people waking up, spontaneously and writing books and having experiences like Dr. Joe Dispenza and so many other people are waking up. So I think it's a good time. It's a
Sure. And
time
I
for
got it.
us to document all of this stuff because
Yeah, man.
it's not been documented so far.
It's a great time to be alive for sure. I do have to ask you, right? So in the West, we have these new age thoughts, right? These new age thought theories about your mind creates your reality. What about like manifestation? Like, what is it about that? Are we on the wrong concept as far as like, you know, trying to create a reality? Because I mean, it can create like this false narrative as far as um, being very egocentric or narcissist when you're trying to recreate your reality because a lot of us want different things. A lot of us want freedom, right? Like
Yeah.
I know that I do. And so is it a fallacy to think that you can have freedom, but is freedom something totally different than what we think it is? You know what I mean? Is freedom really financial freedom or is freedom really being detached from that and free of those chains of bondage?
I think there's no such thing as independence. We'll always be interdependent with each other. And to want absolute independence is delusional because humans can't be absolutely independent. We need each other. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a weakness. That's a good thing. It's just that we don't know how to engage with each other with proper frames, so we keep hurting each other. So all we have to learn is how to engage with each other with proper frames and good communication, and then we can manifest. We can co-manifest realities. And that's more valuable. That's more fun.
Sure.
There's no fun doing things alone. It's like a solopreneur. The guy's dead, doing everything himself.
Yeah. How can people find out more about you? How can they connect with you?
There's my website, chamundigurukulam.in. I can send you the link.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm very curious now. Like, so what's the difference between like Babaji, the entities, and like angels?
think they're all separate beings because angels come from the world of light, and Babaji is here with the five elements. This is called Bhuloka. There's a Loka above us, which is called the world of light, Loka. And there's a Loka above that. Loka means world. There's a world above that called Swarloka, which is the world of sound. And these three together form what is called the Bhu Mandala, or the Mandala of the earth. So the Mandala of the earth is visited by angels, is visited by sound beings whom we call Devas. Babaji is a Deva, but who's taken an incarnation in the five elements as a human, Naga slash human. That's what he
Mm,
is. So he's like an emperor among the spiritual masters,
wow.
and
So what is our
yeah,
relationship to them, right? Like, so my consciousness, the I that I think that I am, like, who am I in comparison to them? You know what I mean? Like, am I just like this soul that is trying to
no, no,
evolve to
no,
that
no,
state?
no. It turns out we are very valuable. It turns out that um, we we can bring a lot of beautiful things into this world, into existence. Human creativity has no bounds. So even the gods, even the devas and the angels respect humans. They say that they are jealous of the human birth because there's so much uncertainty, and there's so much of a need for God. The angels don't have a need for God. Sometimes they forget that there's God.
Really?
So it's not good to have such a cool life. I mean, such a easy life. Also, people
But
envy
when we
us.
die, right? Like when we die and we leave these bodies, like who are we then?
We are a spirit. We are the soul, jiva, atman, whatever you call it. And it's a formless thing when we die. But even when we die, we hold on to an etheric, energetic form. Somehow we grab some energy and try to make a form out of it. And yeah, but then we get born again if we die. The
But
idea
what's
is not to keep dying. In Hinduism, we find it a waste to keep dying. Like, do everything you want to do once and for all.
what's the
Don't keep
difference
dying.
between the Atman, right, and like Babaji? You know what I mean? Like, so I
The
feel like
even Babaji is Atman. Babaji is an Atman too. Every god is an Atman too. Every angel is an Atman too. So that's just our exterior self. That's the illusion. That's the self-image.
sure.
You become your self-image. You look like how you think you are truly about yourself. You can't
Mm.
fool your body. Your body starts looking like your self-image.
Yeah, I again, like just my Western mindset, like just trying to grasp all these concepts. It's a little foreign to me, but I appreciate your patience.
Happy to explain it, break it down.
Guruji, thank you so much for taking the time, man. This has been awesome. I would really like to do this in the future and like have a, another conversation.
Let's do it whenever you want.